Houston, and we're very happy to speak not only to the Longhorn fans but also to the Texas A&M Aggies. We wish their women the best of luck there in the national championship game today, and we hope that they win, because a victory for any team in the Big 12 is a victory for all of us, and especially those of us that have our own TV networks. Well, listen. Richard Justice is, well, it depends. And now, you go ahead and tell me what he said, but I'll let you know whether or not we're going to give him a media credential this year or not. Yeah, well, Richard Justice is a yellow journalist, and we've got to watch his kind and his type, and that's one of the reasons that everything's going to the internet. You have guys that are doing it the right way, like Jeff Ketchum. He tells the truth and nothing but the truth. And what I like about it is my friend Chip Brown as well was given a great rendition of the spring game. I enjoyed his write up, and I thought he was dead on. Well, John, I don't know what football you're watching, because, in case you didn't know, every year I've been at the University of Texas, save one, we've had about 10 wins a year, and I guess that's not good enough for you. I guess one little hiccup in the road, I'm glad that you're perfect, and I'm glad that you don't make a mistake. But every once in a while, you have to purge what's wrong, and we got rid of Greg Davis, and we got rid of a lot of the troublemakers on offense and defense that were causing the problems, and we finally got rid of that. So we expect to be back on the national landscape, number one, University of Texas football team, and we're not perfect, John, and I never said I was perfect, but I will say this, my record's pretty good. I'm undefeated in the spring game. What I liked about Connor Wood's game is that the young kid showed a lot of poise. He was 8 of 14. He didn't have a single interception, and he showed a lot of really good skills. Brian Harsin called some plays that weren't the right plays for him, and he made some mistakes, and Brian's going to do that. But these kids, God bless their little hearts, they approached the game. I watched Connor Wood, and he went through progressions. He said, wait a minute, that's not the right call against this defense. And you know what he did? Instead of throwing the ball up for grabs, he made smart plays, and he didn't throw a single interception, and he's Baptist, and he went to Second Baptist, and I expect him to do these things. Case McCoy was unbelievable. You may remember Colt McCoy. He got us to a national championship. That was before you started making fun of us there, John. I remember when Colt got us to a national championship before Alabama knocked him out of the game. I don't know if you saw what happened in there. The replays didn't show it. They got him in an armbar, and when he was tapping, he tried to tap, and Marcel Darius wouldn't let go when he tapped, and he snapped a capsule in his elbow, and that unfortunately ended our opportunity at winning a national championship there, which I thought was unfortunate that Nick Saban would coach those kind of tactics. When a guy taps, you got to let go. That's the rules of the UFC, and yet Marcel Darius didn't follow that. But the thing I like about Case McCoy is that he really showed a lot of poise for a young guy. And at no point did he take out there's nobody playing guitars, and no one was singing songs to him, and no one threw him a football. He didn't throw anyone footballs on speedboats driving by. He just went out there and played good Longhorn football. And if you look at the numbers, 2 touchdowns. If you extrapolate that over the course of an entire season, you're looking at in the neighborhood of 70 or 80 touchdowns. The math's a little fuzzy on that one, but I can tell you this, John, we're happy to have a McCoy here in the fold. And David Ash. I know a lot of you are saying, who's David Ash? I'll tell you who he is. He's the kid who didn't throw an interception. And that's what we love. He was 2 of 3 at 66%, and I know that's not good enough for you, John. But when you look at the landscape of college football and you see a kid throwing 66% with no interceptions, I call that high efficiency. Well, those are tough yards, by the way. You didn't see the game, because if you saw it, you'd know how incredible those 5 yards were. Who put that out? Richard Justice? There were 62,000 people in the stands there. And 10,000 outside at tailgates who didn't even come in because they were listening on the radio to Craig Way call the action. You know, it's a good question you ask about Brian Harsin, because the thing with Brian Harsin, he's a new offensive coordinator. He's trying to integrate his game plan, and it's a booger of a game plan. The book, Greg Davis used to have one piece of paper. He had a couple plays scribbled on it. Sometimes he'd keep a napkin with him if he had an extra play he wanted to add. And he had a practice, he'd say, let's just go on page 2. And he'd just say page 1 was one sheet of the paper. He'd flip it over, that's page 2. And that was the playbook, John. And I don't have to tell you that 10 of them were sideways passes. And I go and Brian Harsin has a true playbook. There's several hundred pages in there, and our kids are taking a little bit to learn it. But we're happy with the adjustment that the kids are making to Brian Harsin's playbook. He's happy to have real football players finally here at the University of Texas. He's happy to come with kids who have great families. He's happy to come and see players who have played at great high school programs, and especially there in Austin Westlake and a lot of the schools around here, and a lot of the schools in Houston. We're very happy to have kids from Houston here. But Brian Harsin's getting his first opportunity to work with real football players, kids who come from real families, and this has just been a treat for all of us, and we're expecting great things. But don't forget about Manny Diaz. And I know you ask about how good Manny's been. He's been great. That's right. So what's your question, Johnny? You just reading that just to read it, or what are you doing here? Well, well, yeah, I guess we're also trying to avoid national championships. Boy, I wish 2005, 2006 had never happened. That was a real travesty, wasn't it? We actually went undefeated and won a national championship. Hey, let's avoid that undefeated season until Marcel Darius ended Colt McCoy's, almost ended his life with an armbar. I guess we need to avoid that. Let's just avoid all these wins and all these near conference championships. Let's avoid all of these 11-win seasons. Let's avoid these great come from behind victories and near victories in these bowl games. Let's just avoid all that, John. Maybe you didn't see when Garrett Gilbert almost snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, or rather victory from the jaws of defeat. He was just a couple of plays from doing that, but I guess that's not good enough for you. You want to dwell on the negatives, and that's what you want to do. But the thing that I like about University of Texas is we've got good kids. We've got kids who have high character and high standards. And I know there where you're from in LSU, you've got kids who are running around asking for money and cars and mopeds and whatever else kids have, the Nintendos and all that, and they want Xbox and 3D cameras and spy cameras where you can see into girls' shirts and blouses and all that stuff that's and sea monkeys. We don't do that at the University of Texas. Our kids just want an education, and when they get out, they're going to either go to the pros, or they're going to be CEOs of companies, or they're going to host radio shows. Rod Babers. Well, and LSU's got the X-ray, and that's one of the things, and that's why we won't recruit kids that ask us if we can get them X-ray glasses that can see into the skirts of women. We're not doing those kind of things. Go to the back of a magazine if you want that. Go to a comic book. Call LSU if you need it. We're not doing those kind of things. Well, we did it for kids, John. See, this is something you wouldn't understand there at LSU. You'd never bring a child to that event because they could get hit in the face with a Jack Daniels bottle. At University of Texas, we are a family operation, and we want kids to be welcome there, and we want them to come early and be loud and also stay late. And part of staying late is watching that gigantic baby who was trying to hunt down those other toys and kill them. And that was something, it scared some kids. I'm not going to lie, I saw some kids afraid of that big giant baby that was running around trying to break Buzz Lightyear in half. But at the same time, we like to have football players like that who are a lot like the big baby guy. Not so much like that creepy old bear who was really trying to fool them into being indentured servants there with the kids who are too rough on them. At the end of the day, I'd never seen Toy Story 3, and when I watched it, I got a little nervous and I got a little scared. And I'll be honest with you, I covered my hands over my face, and there were a couple of times I was just peeking through. And I hadn't been that scared since I saw Phantasm. You remember that flying? There was a scary. Do you remember when that bed swallowed up Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street? And Johnny, this is before he's a big deal, before 21 Jump Street came out, and all of a sudden Johnny Depp's laying on that bed, and the whole thing swallows him up, and the girl couldn't go to sleep, and her hair turns gray, and now all of a sudden I got that big giant baby running around looking after her. It was nerve-wracking, but at the same time, I'd just seen Garrett Gilbert, so, you know, it's like swinging two bats on the on-deck circle. You weren't quite as scared because you'd just seen Garrett Gilbert throw the ball. But enough of that. Let's talk about Case McCoy. The kid's been fantastic, and he comes from a good family. That's right. Is there a question? Is there a question in here? Is there a question in here? Do you have a question in here? You're just making commentary. Let me explain it like this. It's a lot like when you're 24 years old and 23 years old and you've had too much to drink and you get home and you microwave some bagel bites and you stick them in your mouth and they're so hot they burn your face. They literally will burn the taste buds off of your tongue, and you actually get some of that pizza sauce on your face, and you'll melt some of the skin off of your face, and you say, boy, this is really good, because you're drunk and you don't know any better. You're drunk and you're stupid, and your taste buds aren't developed. Then all of a sudden, when you get a little bit older and you have a little money, you get gourmet food and you realize, this is really good food. I can't believe I ever ate those terrible bagel bites. It's a very similar deal here. Brian Harsin is gourmet food, and Greg Davis was red hot, piping hot bagel bites that were burning our faces off, and we won a national championship thanks to Vince. And we've purged all that, and I've discussed that, and we've addressed the issue, and we're where we need to be here, John. And let me also remind you, David Ash, who you've never heard of, was 2 of 3 with no interceptions. I mean, if you don't think the quarterback position is in capable hands, then you're wrong. Well, let me ask you a question. How many times do you realize who he was going up against? Manny Diaz's defense? I mean, it's not like Manny Diaz is just sitting there letting guys go crazy and saying, hey, why don't you just throw for 1,000,000 touchdowns? I mean, if the numbers were too good, it would look bad for Manny Diaz. Manny's out there playing too. Those guys are out there trying to stop people, and Manny's out there coaching. And you've got 2 basically masterminds. It's like getting in a Harsin and Diaz is like getting in a game of tic-tac-toe. You can't even hardly win. If you don't capture that middle spot, and even then you still can't, even if you got somebody who halfway knows how to play. I used to beat Greg Davis on a regular basis in tic-tac-toe. That's when I knew I needed to upgrade. But you get Harsin and you get Diaz, and they get in tic-tac-toe battles, nobody wins. There's no spelling errors, but I appreciate your lame attempt at comedy, Art. That was a nice try to bring a kid down. All he did was and all he's trying to do is graduate from University of Texas. But I'm glad you're able to take a shot at his character, at his intelligence. That's a classy move to do that for a kid. I guess you don't love America. Well, he's not, but at the same time, you say he's a grown man, but he doesn't even have life insurance. He doesn't have a cemetery plot. You're not really a grown man until you have a cemetery plot. I've got a great spot picked out. Sally and I've got a spot overlook. It's just a beautiful. I'm not going to tell you where it is because you'll probably come urinate like an LSU fan all over my plot, and I don't need that. Well, yeah, I couldn't be happier. We've got the kids that we've always wanted. We've got the good kids in now. We've gotten rid of some bad kids. We've got good kids here. We've got good parents who are part of the program. We've gotten rid of coaches who weren't committed to winning, and we've got guys in here who are committed to winning. And one of them's Manny Diaz, tic-tac-toe mastermind, and the other one's Brian Harsin, who's a delicious bite of gourmet food. We've gotten rid of the bagel bites, and we've gotten gourmet food in here, and we feel like we're going to continue to be the best team that we can possibly be. And once again, you look at the quarterback position, and what a brilliant job these guys did. In case McCoy couldn't make us happier, I want to say hook 'em to all the Longhorn fans out there. We appreciate your support. Make sure you catch us on our new Longhorn Network. We're going to also, you're going to see there's a giant outline of just $100 bills around the outside, just to remind you of what we're capable of doing and what the Aggies aren't capable of doing. But on an unrelated note, best of luck to Texas A&M on not having their own television deal, but having their women play for a championship. I think that's awfully nice. And listen, that was a heck of a game they played. It's not their fault. They got the snot literally kicked out of their faces by LSU. That was unfortunate, but that happened. I'd almost rather not. You know what I didn't do there around New Year's Day? Get the snot kicked out of my face on a bowl game. But Texas A&M, but we're so proud of your women. They're doing. Your women are doing a heck of a job. They're really picking up the slack, and we wish you the best of luck. Well, but they didn't get as far as they had hoped to. But the women are doing it, and we think their women are doing a great job of picking up the slack for the men, and for that they've got to champion one of these cool cups or Canadian cups or Capital Cups, and maybe they can win another tennis event or something like that, and pretend like they're in the same class as University of Texas. Well, they sure don't, John, and I didn't say that, but you did, and it's true. Yeah, so long.